go ahead.
Okay, starting now.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're just gonna give it a minute to have some more people trickle in. Hope everyone's having a good afternoon so far. I know we got some rain yesterday. It is a little bit more chilly, but yeah. I'm glad we were able to have this info session today. Welcome, everyone. My name is Mushroom Chaudhry, and I am the manager of sales and recruitment for the Shank School. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the land upon which Toronto Metropolitan University is built. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory, the Dish with One Spoon between the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas, and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. I want to pay my respect to the Indigenous peoples, elders, and ancestors who stewarded and cared for the nature and people who lived on the land where TMU is located today. At the university, we have made a deep and long-lasting commitment to truth and reconciliation. I invite you to learn more about this work online. Now I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's session. Your microphone is muted throughout the event so as not to disturb other attendees or presenters. For the hearing impaired, we have automated captioning available, which you can access by activating it in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions by typing your questions into the question box of the control panel. You may send in your question anytime during the session, and we'll be answering them at the end of the info session. So I'd now like to introduce our guest speakers for today. Krishan Mehta, Academic Coordinator for Fundraising Management, Carol Arundel, who has been a long-time and dedicated academic coordinator for the certificate in nonprofit and voluntary sector management, and Jen Miller, one of our recent graduates with 20+ years of experience in the nonprofit sector. So Carol and Krishan will provide a brief overview of the two certificates, fundraising management and nonprofit and voluntary sector management, and how it can help develop the skills you need to build your career. And Jen will talk a little bit about her journey in the sector and some emerging trends. Welcome, everyone. Randall, if we can put the slides up. Great.
All right, do you want me to begin, Mashur?
Yes, go ahead, Krishan.
Great. Hello, everyone, and thank you for making some time to learn more about these two certificates. As noted earlier, I'm Krishan Mehta. I am the academic coordinator for the Fundraising Management Certificate, and I'm going to spend the first few moments of this webinar just sharing some high-level points around the certificate. And then I'll pass it over to Carol, who will talk about the Nonprofit Voluntary Sector Management certificate as well. So on to the next slide. Just some very quick facts. On the screen here, we have just some high-level parameters around the program. This program is designed to be completely online and asynchronous, meaning that it is designed for people who have a number of activities on the go in their lives, both professional and personal, and that it's really suited for people who want to make time for continuous learning, but also have various demands on their schedules. So it allows you to pursue the certificate on your timeline as well as at a pace that you're comfortable with. So you have about a year and a half to complete the certificate, which is 5 courses. Each course is 13 weeks long, and it's divided in traditional semester format. And the cost is between $3,600 and $4,400 in total. And that variance is really if you are an undergraduate taking a part of the program accounts towards or includes undergraduate students, so they're subject to those fees. And if you're an international student, then that's also subjected to additional fees, a nominal fee. But for the most part, we're looking at a very accessible program that provides some great benefit for you as you pursue a career in fundraising management. On to the next slide, please. So who is enrolled in this program, or who is attracted to participating in this certificate? We've seen a wide gamut of folks, both early professionals, mid-career, and those who are looking to frankly transition from one field to another. And we often find people in backgrounds from accounting to finance, from the arts, from law, and other disciplines who are seeking a career that provides both meaning, but also applies some of their lived experience and professional experience into the world of fundraising. The not-for-profit sector and the charitable sector, broadly speaking, is large, particularly in Canada, but also in the US and other parts of the global north. Formalized charitable giving is something that is seen as an area of great growth and opportunity, especially for professional fundraising. And so this provides you, if you're interested in a career with both meaning and passion, but also impact, to really delve into ways in which revenue generation, philanthropy, sponsorship, and other forms of support for mission-based organizations to really coalesce and come to the surface for you. So really excited about the impact people are having on the sector, but also really providing great pathways for career meaning. On to the next slide, please. So on this slide, you'll see a number of different outcomes, really, from this certificate that you will be able to apply in both professional, but also in personal or voluntary settings. So one of the foundational underpinnings around this program and the curriculum was to anchor it in ethical fundraising practice and strategies, and looking at the ways in which our current context, our geopolitical and economic environments impact the world of fundraising. An entire course is dedicated to data analytics and using data to make better informed decisions around fundraising practice and strategies to increase revenue and donations from your community. And of course, looking at different strategies for fundraising. It's not just only about event management, but also about working on annual giving campaigns, major gift campaigns, planned giving campaigns. I know these are words that you may not be acquainted with, but through these programs, we teach you about the art and science of all of the various strategies to generate support for your organization. And then, of course, we look at new and emerging trends in fundraising that allow you to think critically about where the industry and the sector is headed and how you may be able to apply that new knowledge to your fundraising practice. And then finally, looking at accountability, which is a huge part of the work that fundraisers must do in terms of being able to report back, not only to government or to CRA, Canadian Revenue Agency, but also to donors and to other community members, as well as to the beneficiaries of philanthropy and charitable giving. On to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a program that can be completed within a year, but you also have a longer runway should you need it. It is asynchronous, and of course, it is all led by instructors who are very involved in the world of fundraising, both as professionals, but also as volunteers in the fundraising sector. And of course, we very much encourage people to apply their work and tell us about the application of that work into into the program. What you share with us informs growth of the program and also revisions to the curriculum from time to time. I should also mention briefly that for those of you who are looking to apply for the CFRE, which is the Certified Fundraising Executive designation, that all of these courses account towards the education points for the application for the CFRE, which is a really great credential to receive as well. On to the next slide, please. So in terms of the GPA, you need a 1.67 or more to be eligible to complete the certificate. And as I mentioned earlier, there are 5 required courses. Not every course is available each semester, so it does require a bit of planning on your own part. The Introduction to Fundraising course is available. That's CINT 916. Every semester, or tends to be depending on enrollment, and others are available at specific times of the year, which are all available on the website in terms of timelines and samples, syllabus, curriculum, subjects, and topics. To the next slide. This is over to you, Carol.
All right, Carol.
Thank you. I'm going to give a very similar introduction. Our certificate, the Nonprofit and Voluntary Sector Management Certificate, is also delivered online. There are some classes that are delivered in hybrid mode, some courses. Hybrid is where you get together one Saturday a month with the other students and the instructor in person. The content is online. And it's like a workshop, for example. And right now we have 2 courses that are offered that way. They are also offered online for people who are outside the easy commute area. The certificate requires completion of 8 courses, and I have known students to do the 8 courses. That's like a full-time student load. In 8 months, but you have up to 5 years maximum. And the average is somewhere 2.5 years. But depending on your workload and the rest, you have up to 5 years to complete the 8 courses. The cost there is, it's between those 2 numbers to be exact, but we don't need that. There's a cost per course, and you multiply by 8 to get those. Next slide, please. What I didn't say before is all our courses as well are asynchronous. They are offered online, and there is not a requirement for you to be online at a particular time on a particular day with the instructor. So there's a lot of flexibility in them. So trends in the nonprofit sector. Well, I never know where to start with this. The sector is huge. 180,000 organizations, 2.5 million employees, 13 million volunteers. It really offers huge scope in terms of opportunity and scope in terms of types of organizations. So some operate very locally, and of course, Canada and internationally, there are organizations that work internationally in other countries, in multiple countries sometimes. You will find nonprofits that are owned by government. So for example, the TTC, the Toronto Zoo, community, I'll leave it at those 2 examples. There's many, many more. So government doesn't want to directly deliver, but they set up an organization to deliver it on their behalf. Those are nonprofits. There's tremendous opportunity in those. Businesses also set up nonprofits. Interact was a nonprofit for many, many years. It isn't now, but they have a nonprofit arm. So Interact is the banking partnership that allows you to access funds through one machine at multiple different banks. So businesses are using the nonprofit form when they're not wanting to make a profit out of the initiative. And of course, community nonprofits are the ones you will know about the most. They're a tremendous range of organizations, environmental, health, community service, advocacy, research, scientific. There's a huge range, housing, a huge range of organizations at the community level. Professionally as well, I didn't mention this in the business side, many professions, the CFRE that was mentioned before, I won't get the term right, but the Fundraising Professionals Association will be a nonprofit. It's a professionally oriented organization that has nonprofit status. The same for the Canadian Medical Association or the Law Society or many others. They are nonprofits that are established to provide professional services to their professional members. So as you can see, there's a lot of range and scope in it. There's also a huge range of jobs in the same way that any organization needs IT, HR, finance, law, management, research, they all need those. They then need their specialties in terms of service delivery, direct services, research advocacy, those kinds of things. The last point I wanted to make is that these organizations have to adapt to the changing environment. So they're right now very focused on social innovation, evidence-based analysis, partnerships between organizations in the sector, but also with government and with business. And sometimes the partnerships cross boundaries, international boundaries, and others. There's a big emphasis on leadership right now, adaptive leadership, shared leadership, and of course, post-COVID recovery. Next slide. So who should take the program? We have a lot of people in the program who are already working in the sector in different kinds of roles. We also have people who want to make an impact based on a social return on investment. So there we're talking about people who want to get into the sector, individuals that want to start a nonprofit, people who are transitioning from a career either in the private sector or government, want to move into the nonprofit sector. Undergrads at TMU can do a minor in nonprofit management. And of course, people in the public and the private sector who are working there, who don't necessarily want to leave their job, but their job connects them frequently with the sector, and they need to know more about it. So government staff who might be involved in grants, in financing in the sector, in policy work, and private sector professionals who are involved in I've forgotten the words. I'm forgetting words right now. Corporate social responsibility, there I go. And many corporations have foundations and they work closely with the sector. So those kinds of professionals as well might be interested. Next slide. In terms of career paths, I've covered a lot of this already. There's tremendous scope in terms of the different kinds of nonprofits and charities at different levels in Canada and externally. There are organizations that might focus on housing or on law, but there are sector-wide organizations and associations that represent the sector. The Ontario Nonprofit Network or Imagine Canada are two that I might mention there. So there's opportunities in those sector-wide organizations, think tanks, policy and advocacy organizations, and the others I've talked about already. So lots of different career paths within the sector and connecting the sector to the other sectors. Next slide, please. So the sector involves, and this is a little bit on the next slide as well, 11 courses. And in those courses, you're going to get experience in theory, in application of the theory through case studies, through examples of applying concepts to your own nonprofit or to a case study an instructor gives you if you don't have one. As well as in critical thinking. The whole point is to get you to be open to other perspectives other opinions, other ways of working. And so by completing the sector, you're going to master some practices. You're going to know about sector dynamics and the different forces at play right now. You will, depending on the courses you take, develop skills in financial management, in evaluation, strategic planning, change, marketing, skills in leadership, advocacy, and government relations. You're going to understand governance because there are elements of governance throughout all our courses, and equity, diversity, and inclusion, which is a separate course, but also part of our courses. You'll also get a lot of advice and links to other resources. I'm currently redeveloping the equity, diversion, and EDI course. It's easier to say that. And one of the links is to an app that allows you to assess your nonprofit website to see how consistent it is with principles and values of diversity and inclusion. So there's things like that in all of our courses. Inside on Canada's international NGOs, we have quite a sector within Canada. People often forget about it, and so we have a course on it, and we use examples in our other courses as well. And a couple of courses get students to sort of critically reflect on issues that are facing the sector now, as well as opportunities. We always focus on, what the barriers are and the challenges. Let's reframe that in terms of what the opportunities are for change. Next slide, please. 8 courses overall. 4 of them are required courses. In the next slide, you'll see they're asterisked. 4 of them, 4 elective courses out of the group, and the course requirement for a GPA average. Next slide, please. The suggested path that I suggest you take is to start with the 2 courses. CINP, I'm not going to go through them all, but CINP 900 is an introduction to the nonprofit sector, and it will position you well for the others. And CINP 901 is an exploration of what the term effectiveness means, and it also provides an overview of effectiveness of nonprofit at the organizational level, what effectiveness looks like. And then the other courses you can take, I've mentioned all of them already on different topics. You have to take one of either 902, which is which is evaluation, or 915, which is evaluation. You can take the other one though as an elective. So that's why they're part of that elective group and why they're also starred. And then the last course is about critical issues, and it is suggested you take that at the end or towards the end. I think it's the last slide now, please. No, the last thing I wanted to say, if we could just go back, the fundraising certificate, some of our courses are offered all the time. Some of them are offered a couple of times a year, alternating terms. And 1, maybe 2 of them are offered once a year. So you need to look at the schedule in the nonprofit certificate and look at each of the courses. You should be able to, if you really want, as I said, complete the certificate within 1 year and be able to get all the courses because they will be offered within a 12-month period of time. They will not all be offered within an 8-month or 2-term period of time. Okay, so that's me. I'm sorry if I went too long. Back to you.
All right, so it's over to Jen.
Excellent, thank you. I will try to be quick to make sure we have as much time as possible for the additional questions. Just a little bit about myself. So as Carol was saying, the sector is quite broad, not only in terms of the types of NGOs that are out there, but also what you can do there. Myself, I have held roles in PR, community engagement, volunteer management, project management, product ownership, retention, fundraising. There are so many different areas that you can go into. I like to say that, you know, pretty much any job that you can find in the private sector, you can also find its equivalent in the nonprofit sector. So really, wherever you are starting, you can find a place here. My current role, and all of those different jobs sort of led me here, is actually with an agency that works exclusively with nonprofits. So I'm in a very grateful place right now that I get to work with a number of the different types of nonprofits that Carol had mentioned as well. And of course, it really allowed the learnings that I got here to be applied in a very broad perspective. Two things I wanted to touch on is sort of one of the obviously the thing that I found most beneficial about the course, but then also how it directly tied back to the work that I'm doing right now. In terms of its direct impact on my current role, is that I found that the opportunities for reviewing case studies, the opportunities to be able to dive deep into research projects, and I'm so sorry, someone walked by my house and my dog is barking.
That's okay. That's totally
I'm
fine.
so sorry. It's work
No
from home
worries, Jen.
Saturday. And so one of the things that I found, it was actually a happy coincidence. I don't know if this happens all of the time, but later on today, I'm actually going to meet with a number of fundraising offices from the Caribbean about their fundraising program. And one of my last projects was to dive deep into a country and their nonprofit sector. And so just the ability to really connect that one-on-one, I know it was some sort of miracle that happened. But I found it a lot with my research projects, right? I was able to choose an area that I was passionate about, whether it be, you know, the transition to millennial giving, right? Or whether it be the shift that environmental organizations are going to play as climate change becomes larger, right? When you have this focused time where you have to sit down and dive deep, it's a really great motivation to make yourself become a little bit more of an expert in the area. And so that's what I really found most beneficial applied to my job. Most beneficial for me as a human was just the ability, was the weekly engagement with the every week there's a question and you have to go online and you have to respond to it, and you're encouraged to respond to, you know, 3 or 4 of your peers' responses as well. And really that's where you find that real life application of what you're being taught in the classroom. And once again, just being able to see the breadth of students that are there, you know, folks that had never worked in the nonprofit sector and were taking this certificate to join, versus some of us who had been in the sector for a long time and were applying sort of some history of where we had seen this played out. It helped me gain a much wider perspective of how I could approach the work that I'm doing every day. So hopefully I can get us a little bit back on track, and I will stop there. But of course, I think we have a question period in case there's anything else you'd like to know.
No, Jen, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you to our presenters as well. I really loved the fact that, you know, you talked about the application, you know, and you know, picking up that project in a subject that you like and you're interested in a, you know, in a country or a region that you like. You know, lifelong learning, that's something that we always like to talk about, and the fact that you said you know you saw that two sets of people, someone who doesn't have the experience and someone who is coming from the sector, sort of work together. I think that's great, and thank you so much for sharing that. So with that, I will open up the floor to Q&As. We do have a few questions that have trickled in. Thank you for everybody and, you know, for putting in these questions. The first one is for fundraising. So maybe Krishan, you would like to take a stab at this one. Would you consider fundraising and sponsorship the same? Can I apply my learnings from this program to the sponsorship sector?
The short answer is that you can certainly apply the lessons in the certificate to a sponsorship arrangement with a corporate or foundation entity. But it is important to know that there is a stark difference between fundraising for charitable giving and sponsorship arrangements. Sponsorship is usually a marketing vehicle to be able to draw on the audiences that a nonprofit attracts or a charity attracts, to be able to create awareness, buzz, even revenue for that organization through logo placement, through particular spots and other benefits that would go to a sponsor. Where philanthropy or charitable giving is often considered to be arm's length to the charity from the donor perspective, so that there are other limitations that we place to ensure that there isn't kind of a conflict of interest or even other issues that may misalign with the charitable purpose of an organization. We do teach about the art and science of sponsorship arrangements with charities and larger organizations, particularly those that have multi-year arrangements with sponsors or donors. And so that's something you learn in one of the courses. And we have an entire module dedicated towards that. But it is a growing and interesting field. In fact, one of the other courses looks at some of the potential issues around dealing with sponsors and ways in which you, as a fundraising professional, can navigate some of the waters around ethics and conflict of interest.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Next question is someone who's looking to transition to fundraising from the entertainment sector and is looking to know, if there are any barriers for people that are a little bit older to transition into this industry, or, there's still roles out there for anyone that's looking.
It's a great question, and thank you for asking it. In my opinion, and based on the experience I've observed over the last few years teaching, a number of folks who have considerable professional experiences in other industries taking these certificates. And in the case of fundraising management, there are so many ways in which you can apply the lived and professional experiences you've had, particularly in entertainment, to fundraising management. As an older worker or someone with more years of experience, this is often seen when paired with formal education in fundraising management. And Carol, I would imagine it's also in the nonprofit voluntary sector management certificate as well. There seemed to be a great value in pairing this opportunity to learn about trends and skills and the art and science and practice in the sectors with your other experiences, which is seen, in my mind, and speaking to many employers, particularly charity leaders, as a great benefit.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Next question is for nonprofit. So the question is, I'm particularly interested in governance of nonprofit organizations. Is it possible to select only the courses aligned with this focus? Would you be able to guide me in choosing the relevant courses? And yeah, that's pretty much the question. If they don't want to necessarily complete the certificate, but just take a couple of courses.
That we have integrated governance into every course. So in, for example, financial management, there will be at least a module on the role of the board of directors in assessing risk, or in dealing with the audit, or some of the other elements. In the same with marketing or strategic planning or leadership. Probably more in leadership. I suppose I could try, but it has been integrated. CINP 901 probably is the basic one, but the others all have a significant element in them. So there's not one in particular, but CINP 901 might be one to start with, and then see how you go.
Thank you so much, Carol. Awesome. Next question is for fundraising, but it's it's a hot topic now. Everybody asks about AI. So there's a question regarding AI. Will you touch on AI and how it's impacting or assisting fundraising?
Yes, we do have a number of modules in the throughout the certificate that looks broadly speaking at technology, but we also look at the art, science, and ethics of AI integration into fundraising practice. And so the certificate provides opportunities for you to delve into some of the challenges, but also practical use cases for integrating AI into everyday fundraising work.
Next one is also for fundraising. What other sort of benefits for the funding management course would apply for professional grant writers?
So one of the modules actually in a couple of modules and a couple of courses, we spend quite a bit of time on grant writing. And as you may know, that it is a very important part of the work that fundraisers do in terms of communicating a need, but also being able to work closely on developing with colleagues and volunteers, perhaps board members, a compelling case to share with potential funders. And so we do spend time looking at best practices in grant writing and even some case studies for those of you who are interested in honing that skill. And sorry, I just wanted to draw on something that you said, Jen, around the diversity of experiences that you've had and its application to this program and vice versa. I'm like, when you talk about fundraising, I'm sure you've been well acquainted with and have tons of experience also in the grant making space or grant writing space.
So I'm sorry that I won't be able to. Grants is one of the areas that I actually don't have a lot of experience in. But are you able to rephrase that question for me?
Yeah, so I'm just thinking about how important when you talked about fundraising and working with people who are writing grants or making a compelling case or telling the story around impact, that you've been able to either support or review or collaborate on sharing a vision for change or for growth in the sector.
Yeah, and specifically from my experience in the course is that what it did is it really helps you, like I said, having, and maybe it's just my personality approach, but having that deadline, when there, are the conversations that you have to apply to, or, there's papers that you have to finish, right? It really forces you to take a much more direct perspective, which, in the nonprofit management course, Carol referenced that course on effectiveness, right? And so much of fundraising is being able to demonstrate effectiveness, right? And impact and showing, how what you're asking your donors to give towards is going to accomplish their philanthropic goals, as well as helping the organization meet their missional goals, right? And so when you're really forced to look at these things from an academic point of view, it sits in the back of your mind as you start to move forward and helping develop either proposal, anything, from direct marketing campaigns to major donor proposals, right? In making sure that you have that lens when you're speaking to the donor. The marketing course was great too. Most of my time has been in marketing, which is different than philanthropy, but it allowed me to, like I said, to take that additional time to think about how I'm messaging what we're talking about and translating that internal sort of very monitoring and evaluation type terminology into things that are going to sit and resonate well with our donors. Which,
Yeah.
because I'm passionate about millennial giving, they are wanting a lot more of, and nonprofits are going to need to do a much better job at providing a lot more information and transparency if they want even lesser engagement than we've seen in the past from other segments.
So I know, Jen, you did mention this earlier, but one of the attendees missed it from before and just wanted to know about your experience before you started this program.
Yeah, so I have this could be too much information. I grew up as someone who relied on the kindness of others and nonprofits. And so for most of my life, I have been engaged in one way or another, and knew that this was an area that I wanted to go to. And so I have done everything from, I remember, being in junior high and volunteering at youth groups, right? And setting up, being in charge of reaching out to new kids and helping plan sessions, to, my more professional career, where I was organizing retention strategies around critical points in a donor's journey, right? To make sure all the areas of the organization were coming together to provide a cohesive experience so that donors, pain points were minimized, to writing policy papers that were being presented at the UN on child rights and things like that. So it's quite broad. I'm not sure if we have time to go into all of the areas in our time together, but.
Could I interrupt for a sec? I know I took too much time before, but I think that everybody can see that this is one of the benefits of both of our programs. Students learn from the content, but they engage with each other and they get different perspectives from the discussions and from the online discussion group work if you're in groups, but you get a chance to learn. And when I ask students at the end of a course, what are your key takeaways? We've all got different takeaways. We're learning different things. One of them almost always is how much they learn from each other. And I'm quite confident that's the case in the fundraising certificate. And I think it's one of the benefits of learning at different points in our lives too. We learn, all through life, perhaps rather than at different points. And, we try and design the assignments so that they're useful. We try and give you case studies to apply theories, but it's that connection as well with the instructor and with the other students in the course, even though they're online, that makes it, in my opinion, tremendously valuable. We set the framework for that to happen, and then you make the magic happen with each other.
That's a really great point, Carol. And in fact, I would argue that one of the spin-off benefits of enrolling in our certificates is really the network that you carry with you after you've graduated or completed the program. We have so many stories of fundraising professionals who meet in other environments, like at a conference or even in the workplace, and they say, hey, you graduated from that program too, and oh, I remember when you shared that experience or case study online with me, and I really use that as a way to think further on what I'm working on in my job, or these things are happening all the time, and it's outside of the classroom or outside of the formal online learning environment, which is really special. And we try to nurture that as much as we can. We have, for example, in the Fundraising Management Certificate, a LinkedIn group where we exchange job postings and ideas and pain points and questions. Has 800 members on it now. So your network is really grows, I think, through these programs.
And I know we're almost out of time, but I do just want to say, I know I mentioned that, but I want to hone in, right? And I know you said outside the classroom. I'm going to bring it back to the papers, just because I really did try and choose my papers so specifically on areas that I wanted to excel in. But I would use those discussions in the weekly chat to, like, I would gain ideas. I would reference those chats in my paper, right, about discussions that are happening right now. And it really is just a source of information that you can't get from whatever other research or reports you might be able to Google online or find in the readings. Is this real-time dialogue between your peers as you are helping to feed into what the trends are and the responses could be and things like that. So I really did very much enjoy being able to be a part of that dialogue, even if sometimes I had to like put a reminder on my calendar to make sure I had, you know, responded by the right time. It was very beneficial for me.
I love it. I totally agree with the fact that, you know, there is that networking and connection factor that happens, and you're always increasing your network and your knowledge and learning at the same time. So yeah, I love all the points that everybody made today. Randall, if we could just have the last slide up for a second. And yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining in today. It was a exciting session. Thanks to our speakers. Also, if you're interested in learning more or enrolling to any of the 2 certificates, it's the certificate in fundraising management and or the nonprofit voluntary sector management. You can visit our website at continuing.torontomu.ca, and I will be putting in my so you can contact me whenever you want. The contact information, you'll also receive a follow-up email with the information and as well as a survey within 24 to 48 hours. So once again, on behalf of the Shine School, our presenters and guest speakers, thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of the day. Bye, everybody.